Today I want to share a bit about how I plan to recover from ME/CFS after 6 years. So I'm first going to talk a bit about my story with this illness, how I initially got sick, how I kept getting worse for a few years, and then after reaching my lowest point, how I had improvements for the past year, and how I plan to continue going forward. So at first, just a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I'm just sharing my personal experience with this condition. And so this is not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare providers for any decisions regarding your health. So towards the end of 2019, I got the flu and then followed by a series of viral infections. A while after that, I started getting new and unfamiliar symptoms such as dizziness, lightheadedness, feeling overall unwell. And I think that was roughly the start of my journey with ME/CFS. So for the first year, I deteriorated pretty quickly until I was probably around moderate. And over the next 3 or 4 years, I still kept slowly deteriorating, but it wasn't very obvious because I had strong ups and downs. And in retrospect, I believe it was me going through very strong push and crash cycles. So basically, whenever I felt a bit better, I would overdo it. And yeah, after overdoing it, I would trigger PEM or even worse, crashes. And then I would be flatlined for a few weeks sometimes. And then once I felt better again, I would overdo it again. So that was kind of my pattern for the first few years. I also, in the long term, had some slow decline until roughly around 2024 was when I hit my lowest point, and I think I overdid it quite a bit leading up to it. And my lowest point looked like 23 hours or more in bed, very, very low physical and cognitive capacity. I was barely able to shower. I was taking my breakfast as a liquid meal and I was having pretty much every meal lying down. I couldn't tolerate that many foods and I was overall extremely sensitive as well. My symptom load was also quite high on average, so at times I wasn't sure if I was in PEM or not. I felt like I was triggering PM all the time, so that was of course a very miserable time. So the turning point came maybe somewhere around middle of 2025. Actually, a few months before that, I had already started reading up on nervous system regulation, nervous system dysregulation. It wasn't the first time for me to embrace this whole topic that some people call brain retraining. Actually, in 2021 and in 2023, I each did one brain retraining program, but both of those programs didn't help me at all. They did explain the basic concept of it, but in the end, it was like you had to follow very specific routines that was supposed to help you, but I didn't improve at all from it. So obviously I had also tried a bunch of medical treatments at that point, which for the most part didn't help me. So at the beginning of 2025, I thought that I should give this whole brain retraining thing another try. One reason was that I had read up more about it and I had come to a better understanding of it, and it seemed to make more sense to me this time around. My knowledge on this topic this time seemed a lot broader and it seemed to make more sense to me compared to what I was taught in those two programs in the years before. So I'm not going to talk too much about nervous system dysregulation or brain retraining in general in this video, or maybe on this channel in general, but there's a lot of information online. So if you're interested in this approach, I would say just try to research on your own and see what clicks to you, what makes sense to you. I'm just going to share a bit about my approach so far and what has helped me. So very simplified, the basic idea is that our nervous system gets put into some danger survival mode. For example, in my case, triggered by the flu and then the series of viral infections following it. And then even when the imminent danger is over, our system is still stuck in that mode. It then interprets symptoms or negative reactions towards those symptoms as danger and keeps our body in this shutdown mode. And this is kind of a self-perpetuating cycle where the goal for us now is to break out of this cycle. So that was a super simplified explanation. I'm now going to share just the 2 or 3 main ideas that I follow that have helped me quite a bit in recovery. So the first one is reacting well to symptoms and reacting well to any kind of threats. Second one is expanding activity slowly. And the third one, I guess, is just an overall additive stuff that has helped me, such as meditation, being mindful, being grateful, being compassionate to yourself, finding joy, and things like that. So how does this recovery approach look like for me on a day-to-day basis? So one thing that I try to do pretty much every day whenever it's necessary is to react well to symptoms and to react well to any kind of fearful or negative thoughts. I'm at a point where I don't get too many of these thoughts, I guess, as something like, oh, I'm not never gonna recover, or oh no, I did this, so I'm gonna crash again. And sometimes it can be actually hard to notice that you actually have those thoughts. So I think one step that you have to do is at first become more mindful of your thoughts and reactions. But what I still do get are symptoms, of course. And sometimes when I do get into PEM, I still have a negative reaction towards it. So I also react to that. What do I mean with reacting well to these symptoms of thoughts? It's just to not interpret them too negatively. Rather take them as they are. I just accept them and I embrace them and I don't judge them negatively. That's kind of how I do it. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but it definitely has helped me so far. So this is especially important during PEM phases where your symptoms are obviously the strongest. So in those moments, it's very important to remain calm, to embrace and accept the situation and not spiral negatively. I also try to generally meditate or do any kind of regulating practices such as yoga nidra every day, but especially during high symptom phases, I do it more often, as much as I feel like I need it. Now on to the second point, expanding activity. The goal is to slowly expand activity, so don't try to overdo it. I followed an approach where I would expand my activity to a point where I would trigger PEM, but I would try to aim for a not too extreme increase of PEM. So something that I can manage. So don't overdo it and put yourself in a crash. And then once I do trigger it, I of course pull back, and oftentimes I already pull back before that when I feel like I've done enough expansion. And when the PEM comes, I do what I said before, the first part. I react well to those symptoms, I react well to any negative thoughts, I remain calm, I try to regulate myself and calm my nervous system. So just a very quick summary of those points that I just mentioned. I expand my activity slightly, I probably trigger some minor PEM, I pull back and rest more, and I react really well to the symptoms that come up or any negative thoughts regarding those symptoms or the illness. And then I kind of rinse and repeat. That's kind of a cycle I go through. And the idea is just to slowly expand your activity while not causing any major PEM phases or even crashes. And also throughout the whole thing, you maybe incorporate certain things that help you, such as meditation, mindfulness, yoga nidra, any other regulating exercises. You can read up on it online. There's a lot of it out there. So reconnecting with joy is extremely helpful. When you try to expand your activity, especially maybe once you have enough capacity to do the most basic things, then maybe try to find certain things that you actually enjoy doing. What's my progress so far? I would say I've had a good 6 months or more of progress now. But actually, for the first 3 to 4 months of doing this, I actually didn't really notice too much of a difference. In retrospect, there was a difference, but it was sometimes hard to notice because even now I'm still having these up and down phases, right? So when you're in a down phase, it's very hard to see the improvement, obviously, because you're doing much worse in the short term compared to, let's say, a week ago or a few days ago. But generally, in the long term, I did start seeing improvements at least 3 or 4 months into it. And I also feel like the improvement is more noticeable now that I'm deeper into this recovery journey. The improvement is also not just in one area. So at least for me, my improvements are kind of split into multiple aspects. On one hand, there is less symptoms in general. Also, the still existing symptoms, they are on average less intense. They are also shorter in duration. My PEM phases are on average less intense. They are also on average shorter. My sleep is better. My digestion is slightly better. It's just a bunch of things that I guess you could say a bunch of different symptoms have improved somewhat. Not in the same way and not the same intensity, but most have improved. I would also say my general capacity has increased quite a bit. This one was actually harder to notice at first, but now it is very noticeable to me. I'm now able to sit, I'm able to talk to the camera for a while, And these are all things I wasn't able to do 1 year ago. So regarding this, I just want to advise you to not focus too much on the short-term view. As I said, it's sometimes hard to see any improvements short-term, but long-term, at least for me, I was at some point able to see some improvements. So what's my plan going forward? Of course, I'm gonna continue doing this, what has worked so far. I am going to continue reacting well to symptoms. I'm gonna continue trying to expand my activity in a gentle and compassionate way. And I'm gonna slowly try and add more and more activities into my daily life. Hopefully a bunch of things that I enjoy doing, but also maybe slowly see if I can return to studying or even working. I hope to take you guys with me on this journey, so if you're interested, feel free to subscribe. See you guys next time.